All right, this is my preseason week one power rankings. We will also be covering training camp takeaways and stuff into this ranking. So let's get started. At number 32, we have the Carolina Panthers, who are going to drop one this week. They had a bunch of different injuries. They had three separate guys be injured for this season. Also, Jonathan Brooks is going to be injured for at least the first couple games of the season. Also, we're saying that their offensive line was struggling a lot in training camp. So not a good look here for the Panthers. At 31, we're going to have the New England Patriots, who go up one spot. They said Demario Douglas was pretty good in training camp. Also, they did say that Joe Milton actually looked better than Drake May in preseason. So that'd be an interesting battle there. They currently said Jacoby Brissett is leading the quarterback battle, but I would expect Drake May to be probably the starting quarterback at some point this season. But potentially, I guess, we could even see Joe Milton making his first start before a guy like Drake May. At number 30, we're going to have the New York Giants. They said they had a lot of struggles here with Daniel Jones and their defensive line. It was pretty good, though. But Daniel Jones was struggling in training camp. Malik Neighbors was pretty good. And they did have a little bit of injuries as well as signing cornerback Christian Holmes, which could be good for them. But overall, saying that Daniel Jones struggled in training camp obviously does not make me feel any better about this Giants team. Number 29, you got the Arizona Cardinals. They lost B.J. Ojulari for the season, so that's bad luck there. They did sign a couple of guys that could potentially take his place. They also said that their defense, has gotten better even from the first day training camp to where they are now. So that's a good sign there, but overall, still don't think this is a very good team. Number 28, we do got the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to drop two spots here. They said their cornerback and their quarterback, both their secondary and their quarterback, were struggling in training camp. Not a very good look for this Vikings team. They have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, so that alone should make their offense somewhat competent. But, with Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy both struggling, it's not a very good look for their offense. Number 27 is going to be the Denver Broncos. Their training camp has some pretty good notes. It said Levi Wallace was pretty good. Audric Stein, a rookie, was pretty good at running back. Also, Javonte Williams is down 11 pounds, so maybe he can be a little faster and shiftier, which certainly could help. They also said that the current starting quarterback battle is between Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix. So Zach Wilson is currently sitting at number 3 on their quarterback depth chart. Number 26, we're going to have the Las Vegas Raiders. They currently said that Gardner Minshew is the number 1 quarterback right now over Aiden O'Connell. That makes sense to me. Also had a couple other things happening. They signed Dax Meeline, a wide receiver. Maybe he could be, a decent receiver for them to kind of be their Michael Gallup replacement, although he's definitely not going to be the one to step up and fill in that role. He's just going to kind of fill in one of the lesser roles that, then need filled in after somebody else steps up to take Michael Gallup's role. Number 25, we're going to have the Washington Commanders. They signed a couple different offensive linemen here in this week, so that makes me feel like their offensive line should be improved now. Also, they said Jaden Daniels was pretty good, and they have a rookie undrafted wide receiver who was also pretty good as well, Bryson Tremaine. Maybe he could be a solid piece of their team this year. Number 24, this kind of feels like a tier up from those bottom 8 teams. Those bottom 8 teams, certainly have some disparity between them as well, but I think this is certainly, the Steelers here are certainly on another level than all of those teams, but this happened to be all the way down here at number 24, which I can admit definitely feels low for the Steelers because they're a good team, I feel like. Definitely have a chance, of course, with Mike Tomlin and stuff to have a winning record. It's just that I feel like there's a lot of teams here this year that are like right around the 500 realm. So that's kind of why the Steelers are all the way down here at number 24. But yeah, this week, they said that Justin Fields has been playing really good. He's actually looked better than Russell Wilson, which is good, I guess. Russell Wilson's still listed as QB1, but overall, still should have a solid quarterback battle going on there. It would be interesting to see how that shapes up, but Russell Wilson is not supposed to play in their first preseason game, so Justin Fields is going to have a real good opportunity to prove himself. Number 23 is going to be the New Orleans Saints. They looked really good here in training camp. They also signed a couple guys actually, quite a bit of guys. They signed Samson Nakua, who's actually Puka Nakua's brother. He played in the UFL. They signed Marcus Callaway, who should be a solid receiver if he makes the actual roster. They also signed Mike Rose, a linebacker from the UFL, who was really good. So definitely made some good additions to their team this week. They didn't really lose anybody as well. And they also said that A.T. Perry is pretty good. Spencer Rattler looked like a really good quarterback too. And they got a rookie tight end, Jesper Horsted, who has looked really good as well. A lot of good news from the Saints this week. Number 22 is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. They said that Anthony Richardson has looked really, really improved this year. Josh Downs has looked improved as well. They haven't had any signings or injuries this week, which is good for them because a lot of teams have had a lot of season-ending injuries already. So the Colts not have any injuries whatsoever is good look for them. Number 21 is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had Josh Peterson injured for this season, but they did sign Gary Brightwell as well as safety Adrian Amos. He's pretty old, getting up there in age, but Adrian Amos I feel like can still certainly be a rotational safety here for the Jacksonville Jaguars and certainly, makes their team a little bit better. They also said that their secondary has looked really, really good in training camp, so that definitely makes me feel a little bit better here about the Jacksonville Jaguars, but overall still don't have a whole lot of faith in them because Trevor Lawrence, they said, has looked pretty inconsistent here this training camp. Number 20 is going to be the Cleveland Browns. They only have good things going here in their training camp. David Bell and another defensive end guy has looked pretty solid in their training camp. They don't have any injuries, I don't think, and they didn't sign anybody either. So I feel like the Browns are still going to be a solid team as long as Deshaun Watson can be a good quarterback, which is a stretch. But if he can be good, they're going to be a lot better than number 20, but I don't expect them to be very good, which is kind of why they're still down here on the list. Number 19 is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They dropped here one spot. Not a whole lot of things going on. They had a defensive end be injured for the season. Their training camp notes, are kind of, let me find them real quick. Buccaneers training camp notes. So yeah, they said that their tight ends has been pretty good. Also an undrafted corner in Tyreek Funderbunk has looked pretty good as well. So if they're undrafted, rookie can look pretty good and be a good part of this team. That's a good thing going here for the Bucs. But overall, again, losing one of those guys injured for the season, and I don't really think there's going to be a whole lot of going on. That's going to be much different than last year. Number 18 is going to be the Green Bay Packers. They're actually going to drop 2 spots here. They've had a lot of different things going on so far this week. Jordan Morgan, the rookie tackle, is now injured. He might be able to be back week 1, but he might have to be out for a couple of games. Some other things going on here for the Packers is that, Dontavion Wicks has not been pretty good. The right tackle has been a big question mark for training camp. So if they can get their offensive line completely healthy and figured out, they should be a little bit higher on this list. Number 17 is going to be the Tennessee Titans. They actually did sign Quandre Diggs this week, which makes them, a lot better, I think, personally. But the training camp notes kind of bring them down a little bit, saying that their offense has been pretty lackluster. Will Levis has looked pretty solid, but they said their defense has been dominating their offense here for the most part in training camp. Number 16 here is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to drop 1 spot here. They said that, Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix have both looked really good here in training camp, which is definitely a good sign. They also signed Jordan Thomas, who I think has been pretty solid for them. The only reason they went down 1 spot is simply because a lot of the other teams, had a lot better things to say about them going into this training camp. So they had to move up a little bit more over the Atlanta Falcons. Number 15, going to have the Los Angeles Chargers, who I think is the biggest movement team we've had so far in this video. And the reason for this is mainly because, their training camp takeaways said that Ladd McConkey has been really good, as well as 7th-round wide receiver Brendan Rice, who's Jerry Rice's son. They said both those guys have looked really, really good here in training camp, which, if those 2 guys can step up and be legit wide receivers, I can definitely solve one of the biggest issues on this team, which is their wide receiver depth. They don't have a lot of good receivers on this team. Quentin Johnson is not a good rookie. If he can bounce back a little bit, that will help. But as long as they're 2 rookies, can perform like we expect them to after what we've seen in training camp, this Chargers team definitely is going to take a big leap here from where I thought they were going to be, a couple weeks ago. Number 14 is going to be the Chicago Bears. The other training camp takeaways here for the Bears. We don't have a whole lot to say about them really, but overall, Caleb Williams said he looked pretty good. Their offensive line depth is pretty solid, and DeAndre Swift has lost 15 pounds, so he can certainly be faster and shiftier with that, which definitely will help the Bears a little bit. Number 13 is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. So then in training camp said their offense and secondary has been the key standouts here. And they also signed Connor Williams, offensive lineman, who definitely, I think, can be a solid piece for this team. Number 12 here is going to be the Miami Dolphins. We're going to see a lot of, AFC East teams here going forward here. The Miami Dolphins up right now. They don't have any signings or injuries or anything to cover here. The only training camp note we have on them is that their DBs looked pretty good, but other than that, we don't have a lot of information here for the Miami Dolphins. Number 11 is going to be the Los Angeles Rams, who I have moving up one spot. They said that their defensive tackle rookie, Braden Fisk, has looked really good. Their safeties looked good, and that Cooper Kupp, looks better and healthier than he has been the last couple of seasons. Kind of looks healthy like he was when he won the Offensive Player of the Year. They also signed a couple different offensive linemen who could certainly help with their depth at that position. Number 10 here is going to be the New York Jets, another AFC East team. Like I mentioned, they did have Tariq Cohen, who said he retired. I really was hoping Tariq Cohen could make a comeback. He was injured for the last couple of seasons, finally made his way back here to the Jets, and then ended up getting injured again, I think, or he was just not completely fully healthy still, and his body's not doing what he wanted to do, so he had to end up retiring. Kind of sad way to see him go out. But they also signed a couple of guys in Brandon Smith and Isaiah Winstead, who could be some good, decent pieces for them as well, and also saying that Allen Lazard has looked really good with them. Which kind of makes sense. Him and Aaron Rodgers have that connection, so that could definitely make him be a lot better than he was last year. Just having a big quarterback improvement, especially a guy you have chemistry with, certainly could make Allen Lazard look a lot better than he looked last season. Number 9 here is going to be the Buffalo Bills. They're going to drop one spot here. For the Bills, I said Keon Coleman's looked pretty good. Their defensive lines look pretty good, but their secondary has been pretty questionable, and James Cook has continued to struggle with drops here in training camp, so not a great look to see from him there. Number 8 here, we're going to have the Detroit Lions. My bad. Detroit Lions here at number 8. They had one guy be injured for this season, but he's not a big guy player for them. They said their defense has a pretty solid this training camp, and that Jameson Williams has looked really good and should be a pretty solid wide receiver 2 for them, they're saying, behind Amon-Ra. Number 7 is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They have looked pretty good this offseason here. Geno Stone's looked pretty good. Their offensive line has been pretty questionable, and they did lose one guy for the rest of the season in Cam Sample, so that's not a very good look for them. But overall, they still should be one of the best teams in the league this season. Number 6 is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't have any injuries or signings to note here, but they also have some pretty solid rookies here that have been balling out in preseason. Will Shipley has looked really good as a running back 2 behind Saquon, and Johnny Wilson has looked really good for them as a wide receiver 3 behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. If those two guys could be very key contributors for this team, this Eagles team should definitely be one of the best teams in the league once again. Number 5 is going to be the Dallas Cowboys here. I'm staying at the exact same spot. They have a couple different things to worry about here. Tyler Guyton's looked pretty good, but they said defensive tackle Mozzie Smith has been affected by his shoulder surgery he had in the offseason, so that might not make him as good as he was just a year ago. They also don't have a very solid running back room. They said they got a couple decent running backs, but no clear-cut running back 1, which, not necessarily a bad thing, but, they don't have anybody that's really above average at the running back position. Number 4 is going to be the Houston Texans. Their secondary has been pretty good here in training camp. Their defense, they said, has looked pretty good, even better than their offense so far in training camp. They also did cut one of their corners, Keandre Thomas, and they did lose a safety, Jalen Thomas, for the rest of the season. Number 3 is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. They actually did sign Russell Gage, who I think could be a solid wide receiver for them, but they also lost cornerback Arthur Maulet. He's supposed to be out for probably 4 to 6 games in the regular season, so not back till probably early to mid-October for him. Certainly not a good sign to see there, but that Russell Gage addition, I think, could definitely be good for this offense. Number 2 here, we're going to have the San Francisco 49ers. This is that their young players have looked really good so far here in training camp, which is obviously a good sign. They also signed Matt Breida, a good running back who hasn't really done a lot here in the last couple of years, but he could be a solid running back piece for them. They also did lose Malik Turner for the rest of the season, who was a wide receiver. He was pretty solid as well. Number 1 here is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. No signings or injuries to worry about for them. They said that their secondary has been pretty good here so far in training camp. Nico Remigio on offense could have a big role as a wide receiver, could potentially be up to a wide receiver 3 or something for this team. They did say Sky Moore right now is basically one of the fringe roster guys, might not even end up making the 53-man roster, but will likely stick around on the practice squad. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back next week for an updated power rankings list, and thank you.